Hello everyone, my name is Amanda Good. I am a recruitment specialist with Girl Scouts Spirit of Nebraska, and today we are bringing you our third sewing basics video where we're going to talk about sewing machines. Now, my sewing machine is this one. It is a Singer. Everyone's sewing machine is going to be a little bit different, but here's how mine works. So, just a basic overview, we've got a power cable that plugs into the wall, and then another cord that is your foot pedal that makes the machine go. Above my right hand you can see that there is a hand wheel. We'll talk about that a little bit. And above my power cable is a on-off switch. Now there's a lot of stuff on top of the machine that we'll talk more in depth about later. You've got your tension, you've got your bobbin winder, you've got your thread spool, and all of the little clips and guides for threading your machine. Presser foot control, so that lever raises your presser foot up and down. My machine has a needle threader, so there's an extra little lever. My machine also has a thread cutter on the back. Underneath your needle is your bobbin housing, and most machines have a little compartment that slides off that allows you to not only create sleeves or small areas, but also has some storage. So my machine came with a bunch of little parts and pieces like extra bobbins, presser foots for various things. We're not going to talk about these today. That's a little bit more advanced than what we're doing, but here's what some of them look like. This is your normal presser foot, the one that you're going to use 99% of the time. Your machine may have also came with a seam ripper, and here's what a sewing machine needle looks like. So you can hopefully see that the eye of the needle is by the point, and the top of the needle that goes into the machine and gets clamped in there is color coded, and every company color codes theirs differently, but it should say on the package. Your machine probably also came with a key. This is for machine maintenance that we're not going to talk about today, but you use that to take the plate off of the machine and get any lint or anything out of there. It's kind of like a little screwdriver. So on the feed plate, you've got, that's where your bobbin is, that's where that bottom thread comes out. Here's what a bobbin looks like. Mine are plastic. Some machines use metal bobbins. It all just kind of depends on the machine. So this is the top of my machine. We're going to first talk about how to thread the machine. So you've got your extra thread holder, your bobbin winder, your main thread holder. My machine has a handle, and then you've got all of these clips and guides for threading your machine. So the first thing we need to do is, like I said, thread our machine. So for mine, I have a little felt donut that I have to put on, then my thread, and then I have a plastic disc that I have to put on as well to hold that thread into place. And the first thing we need to do is wind our bobbin. So you're going to take your bobbin. My bobbin, hopefully you can see, has a little hole right by my fingers there. Most bobbins have holes, at least one or two, and you're going to clip your thread into the guides following the numbers. You can see my machine has some number guides. Every machine is different. Yours might be set up different. I would say refer to your user manual in case it looks completely different than what you see here. So wrap it through the clip, through the hook, and around that little spring-loaded screw. And then you're going to thread through the hole in the bobbin from the inside towards the outside. Bring it over, clip it onto the bobbin winder, and push the bobbin winder over. Then you're going to hold the loose end of thread and press down on your foot pedal. The machine's going to go, and it's going to fill your bobbin with thread. Then you'll pull that right off after you move it over. Clip your extra thread. The top thread coming out of the bobbin you want to clip as close to the bobbin as you can. Then we're going to thread our machine. So you're going to put your thread back under that first clip, down and around the hook, Now, for most machines, you don't need to put it around that spring-loaded screw unless you're winding your bobbin. For mine, I like to. It holds tension a little bit better. And then you're going to go down the right-hand slot to the front of the machine. You can see that I have a little U-shaped mark for number 3, so you're going to go up and around. And then for number 4, inside that slot there is a hook that can be seen if you crank the hand wheel. So I am turning the hand wheel towards myself, and you can see that hook moving up and down. So I'm going to go up the right hand side of the hook, up the right hand side of the hook, back around the back of the hook, and then down the left hand side so it gets caught in that metal loop. Bring it down to the front of the machine, and I'm going to start to thread my needle. So I'm going to clip my thread into that little wire loop. Now my machine has a needle threader. That's what that little white lever to the left is. So to use that, I hook it into the big hook, pull it down, make sure the smaller wire goes into the eye of the needle, hook it into the smaller wire, pull it through, and pull the thread through. But if your machine doesn't have that, you just thread your needle like normally. So you just thread the thread through the eye of the needle, and you can use a regular hand sewing needle threader to help with that. Next, you're going to take your bobbin and you're going to drop it into your bobbin housing. Now my bobbin housing is just a drop-in one. It's exactly what it sounds like, and then I cover it with this little plastic cover. Some bobbin housings require you to take out a metal piece and insert the bobbin. Again, just refer to your user manual for those instructions if it looks different than this. So I'm going to pull the thread out to the left, drop the bobbin in, and then you can see there's 2 little notches. So I'm going to pull the thread towards myself into the right hand notch, through between the plastic and the metal, and then through to the left hand notch, and then hold it tight out the back of the machine. I am then going to hold my thread coming from my needle pretty tightly, crank that hand wheel towards myself, and you will see the thread come across the bobbin. Catch the bobbin thread and pull it up. I'm going to take my scissors and put my scissors in that loop that is created by the top thread and the bottom thread and pull it out. Then I put my bobbin cover on. Now before we sew, we're going to talk about stitches. These are the stitches available on my machine. The one you're going to use the most is just a basic straight stitch. Mine has some zigzag stitches for stretchy fabric, some finishing stitches, and some decorative stitches. I've got a couple stitches that I can use with elastic. My machine can sew on buttons, but it's kind of finicky, so I don't use it that often, as well as some buttonhole options. And again, most of these you're not going to use all that often. My machine also does automatic width and length, so you can see if I move the little dial, the LED light will blink, and that means that it's not the right width or length for that stitch. So that can be kind of helpful. My machine also does an automatic tension, so how tight the thread is when you sew. those are good things to look out for when you buy machines, and those are pretty basic nowadays. All right, so now we're going to talk about the feed plate at the bottom of our machine. So most of the time your fabric is going to be going over this, but there's some helpful things. So you've got your feed dogs that run the fabric through the machine, and as well as some measurement lines to help you keep your sewing straight. So here's my fabric, 2 scraps of fabric. You've got a right side and a wrong side. The right side is going to be the nicer looking side. And when you're sewing a seam, you want to put your right sides together, so your nicer looking, prettier sides of fabric together. And if your fabric doesn't have a right side or a wrong side, it doesn't really matter. But you're going to put your right sides together, line it up straight, and we're going to pin our fabric in place. So I'm just going to use about 3 or 4 pins just to hold it together while we're sewing. This is just a temporary hold. Be very careful, pins are pokey. But you can see I'm poking through and then catching the fabric on the other side. It's also helpful to use short pins so that you don't poke yourself. So insert your fabric under the presser foot. Use your presser foot lever to lower the presser foot and line it up with one of those measurements on your feed plate. And then you're going to go ahead and press down on the foot pedal and sew. I usually remove the first pin so I don't accidentally sew over it. Press down on your foot pedal, sew, and then after you've got a couple stitches, make sure you hit your back stitch button. That's going to hold it all in place so it doesn't come undone. Back stitch a couple times, continue sewing forward as you go, stop and pull out your pins. If you sew over your pins, you can break your needle. When you get to the end of the fabric, you want to stop, hit your back stitch button again, and go back a few stitches before you lift your presser foot, pull your fabric out, and cut your threads. Then you're going to want to find your long ends of your threads, snip those close to your fabric, and make sure to throw away any loose threads. And then you can see how nice and uniform our seam looks from the inside. And then when we turn it around, that's what your seam is going to look like from the outside, and that's why you want to put your nicer sides of your fabric together. Stay tuned for our last Sewing Basics video where we're going to be teaching you how to make a scrunchie. Thanks so much!